If we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. How excellent is thy name in the earth, O Lord! Would I have fellowship with thee, I must show brotherly love to my fellow man. Though I come in humbleness and have aught against my brother, my prayer, my meditation, does not rise to thee. Help thou my efforts in my approach to thee. In preparation for the task before us, let us become more conscious of the divine spirit within, that we may go on. May we face the issues before us as those called for a purpose. May we rely on his promises. For while we are often weak and selfish, and the work is great, he will encourage our spirits, our hearts, with the presence of his Holy Spirit, so that there may be no idleness or delay in us. A spark of the divine that is forever seeking its source is within each of us. As we develop our spiritual forces, our soul forces within, we fan this spark into a flame which brings realization of our oneness and fellowship with the Creator of all things. There is a longing in our hearts for this fellowship, an urge driving us hither and thither in search of happiness and satisfaction, onward in search of God. In the beginning, all knew a perfect fellowship with the Father, and in the knowledge and understanding of this fellowship, all walked and talked with God. Again, this same fellowship is offered to all, a promise of the Father, through the Son. It is the reflection of this fellowship which expresses itself in our love for our fellow human beings, whom we innately feel to be one with us as part of the all-inclusive whole. As we manifest love toward our neighbor, we increase or awaken our consciousness to a more complete fellowship with the Father, and we more fully realize that he moves within others as he moves within us. The family of humankind is but a shadow of fellowship with the Father. It is a true expression of the fellowship that exists in spirit. I try to keep in tune with the great I Am all the time. What can I do to get closer to I Am? How can I get clearer guidance? How can I work closer with the great within as directed by my previous reading? As given, and as in the activity of every individual, the way is open, ever. That is a natural heritage of each soul. Then, the practice of same, the application of same in the daily dealings, in the daily relationships, these bring within themselves that consciousness and that attunement wherein there may be the greater awareness of the I Am and the directing of self and self's abilities and self's clarifying self in those directions. See? I want to serve I Am in the best way possible, and any help along this line will be followed implicitly. What shall I do? Interrupting this, as we have indicated, is to be achieved day by day, here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. Not as rote, but rather as a living experience that becomes so much the portion of self that it is felt, seen, known by all who may meet the body in its daily activities. A kind word, a gentle speech, even under the most trying circumstance, creates not only for self that attunement, but makes same for others, or makes others aware of same. This may be illustrated to the conscious mind by how the radio may be changed high or low, or to the perfect accord, and thus bring a unison that makes for not only perfect reception, but perfect reaction upon those affected by same. What is thy purpose? As we find, in defining then for the entity those questions, there must first be the purport, there must be the answer only within self, as to whom ye will serve. Is it God or man? Is it self or fame or fortune? Are there those grounds for common meeting of these influences? For as the teacher of teachers gave, as all who have pointed to a service to their fellowmen, there is one God or the Lord thy God is one. And the expression should be, my spirit, not spirits, but my spirit, beareth witness with thy spirit, not spirits, as to whether ye be the child of God or not. Hence during that experience the entity became aware of the brotherly love that might be manifested even by one considered as a religious enemy. The entity gained a lesson from same. Though it may be said that the entity was overzealous during the early portion of its activity, it gained that lesson of brotherly love, which aided the entity not only in the foreign land, but in its own homeland, in bringing a better understanding. In the present, from the lesson gained in that sojourn, we find the ability to apply not by might or power, but by my word, gentleness, kindness, long-suffering, patience. Those things called the fruit of the Spirit, or having within them the spirit of the creative forces or energies we call God. In such a manner as to bring into the hearts and experiences of others the knowledge of the oneness of soul's relationships to the Godhead. Only in the fruits of the Spirit, as of long-suffering and patience and mercy and brotherly love and kindness and gentleness, may the true meaning of life's experience and the purposes of life, and in the associations with others, be understood. And not as tenets, but as practical application of same in thy daily life, with thy daily experience with thy fellow man. These make for that in the experience of each soul that makes life, with all of its uprisings and downsittings, worthwhile. 4. As ye have so oft played a part in the changing world that has come about in the sojourns through the earth's plane, so may ye find thy activities in the present sojourn among peoples and conditions, in which is there coming about a changing world. Thus, be ever as a messenger, as an entity or individual that makes known the ways of the Lord. Not as one that would be long-faced, or that would separate self from others so much. 4. Be even as he, who was known among those of every estate, dining with those who dined, weeping with those who wept, among the poor to cherish them, among the rich to give that is needed for their activities among their fellow men. So may ye in thy mission, and in thy journey among thy fellow men, meet, know, have a part in this great changing world in the present. What can I contribute to the freedom of India and the brotherhood of man? This is a large order, my brother. The brotherhood of man preach it ever. Oh, that man would gain the understanding in his heart of this universality of the truth, that man is his brother's keeper. Then may there be the awakening within each soul of the necessity of its giving expression to those in every walk of life. As to the uplift of India, that in which it has been and is so oft misunderstood, the entity's greater contribution may be to the world as to the truths that India holds and has held that the world so much needs in its mad rush for the expression of the desires of the flesh. For these have and do become disturbing periods because the author of The Age of Reason, Thomas Paine, was an associate and a companion of the entity as David Levitt, who argued with and brought to the formers of a government of the people, for the people and by the people, a realization of the need for a trust to man seeking to be helpful to his fellow man. And these principles were inculcated into the Declaration, as these individuals reasoned with Jefferson as he prepared same. As is set forth in the preamble, as is interpreted in the Declaration of Freedom, these are principles which are eternal, those same set forth by those through which the hope of the world must come, which all men must recognize if they are to live together as brethren. Not that all need be of one mind, but on one purpose and one hope, each loving his neighbor as himself. How may I best help to fulfill what Jesus taught in regard to helping people understand that we must love all races, colors and creeds? As indicated in the admonition as we have outlined for the entity. Know that the authority is established, or know the author of thy faith and of thy ideals. Then apply same. The influences from the sojourns of the entity in Jupiter have made for the broad expanse of associations and relations, and those activities of individuals with whom the entity has been associated deal with things of large fields that have a great influence upon the lives and manners of living of many individuals. Yet these with their adverse influences have made for times when the entity has withdrawn within itself through those very fears that have arisen from the adverse Venus experience. Yet, whether the abilities and the activities may be in the relationships of letters or of writing or the experiencing of the judgments as in the relationships of groups or masses or classes, ever would the entity judge rather for the other fellow than for self. For, not only through its sojourns in the earth, but in the environmental influences about the earth, the entity has gained the virtues of patience and tolerance. If these are kept in that same attitude in which the entity has thus far experienced in its application of that it has attained respecting the creative forces in the material and in the mental world, they will bring happiness and joy in the very activities that will shut away will mark from the entity's experience all of sorrow and sadness. For, as has been given, he that loveth his brother may indeed through patience become aware of his soul and its activity in even material things. For the entity having endured even from the beginnings may know, even as he has given. Hence from this urge we will find manifested in this entity's experience in the present that of brotherly love, the thought of others. Yet, in a manner, capable of expressing or manifesting self in such a way as to influence the activities of others, but of an unselfish nature. The greater influence, then, in the experience of the entity, is that of selflessness. This is a virtue that needs to be magnified more in the abilities which naturally arise from this urge. As an organizer of specific or special activity. As a writer or a lecturer, organizing definite thought or purpose. These then only need to be tempered with that more of the brotherly love. First, know what is thy ideal, spiritually, mentally, materially. Know they must be dependent one upon the other. Just as the faith of thy fathers is dependent upon the mercy, the love of God the Father. Just as the adherence to those principles interpreted in the material relationships brings harmony and peace and prosperity. For, these are one, if they are bound together in brotherly love. Hence the entity has thus enjoyed, and does enjoy in its experience among its fellow men, not only respect, not only worshipfulness and respect, but love. Love that maketh the world of men's affairs more harmonious, that puts away hate from the heart and mind. Thus the entity attempts to give that activity into the experiences of others in such a way and manner that they, too, may know the freedom that such brings in its experience.